Welcome back to the channel. So my audio decided not to record at all, so most of this video is without audio. So I'm just going to do a voiceover of everything and see how that goes. So today I'm going to be doing more with the MX5, and I'm going to be doing some carbon skinning and with these engine parts. So we got the timing covers. We're actually going to be only doing the top piece. The bottom pieces we're not actually going to do because you're not going to really see them anyway. Or you're only going to really see this top piece here, and you'll see here now when I test fit it there. We're going to be making this piece carbon, and that should make the engine cover or the engine look a lot nicer. So the bottom you're not going to really see because of the crank and pulley and all that. So here's what we're going to need. We've got sandpaper, a knife, here's the actual carbon sheeting. I'm not sure what brand it is. Just going to go ahead, clean up these pieces, degrease them and remove all the dirt from them, so then it's ready for carbon fibre. Pieces cleaned up now. I did just degrease them and then used a heat gun to heat it up. We're going to just get rid of these two pieces. We're not going to actually carbon fibre them pieces. We're just going to use this main piece. We're going to be carbon skinning this today. So we're going to want to key up the surface. So we're going to use some sandpaper and a knife as well. So I'm just going to go ahead, start sanding this down and go from there. So I just keyed up the surface. I used 180 grit as well as the knife, and now epoxy resin has something to stick to, which is the first step. So we're going to put on a layer of epoxy resin, and then we'll let it get tacky, so then we can place on the carbon sheet after that. So put the first layer of epoxy resin, and we're just going to let that sit for a couple of hours so it gets tacky. I did put some dye in here just so nothing will show through on the carbon. So it's been a couple of hours. The epoxy is now tacky, so I'm just going to go ahead and lay on the carbon fibre sheet to it now. The sheet went on quite nicely. You just got to fill it into all the dropped areas Next up now, we're going to do the second layer of epoxy resin, basically act as a glue for the carbon to stick to. So it's the next day. I left it about 24 hours for the coating, so it's completely dry now. As you can see, it's all rock hard now. So for this next step, we're actually going to cut out all the excess of the carbon itself and get the correct shape. So I'm just going to go cut it down, and it's not quite smooth, so we're also going to have to sand it down as well. So first I'm just going to go ahead and remove all the extra bits that we don't need, and then I'll start sanding with the 200 grit sandpaper. Looking a lot more like a piece now, and I've got it sanded down with a 240 grit sandpaper I used. I didn't go too much because I don't think I went thick enough with the first layer of it or the second layer of epoxy resin, so the carbon is not completely covered with the resin, so I didn't want to burn through to the carbon itself. So that's not a big deal, so I'm just going to go and do his next coat a bit thicker and hopefully cover all up the carbon that is showing through the resin. So I just drilled out all the new holes. I also test fitted as well. Just test fitted it, and I've also drilled out the holes. It did kind of make a mess. I don't think it was completely dry. As you can see, we got a bit there, bit of a mess, but you shouldn't really notice once we do the next stage, which is going to be a clear coat on top after we sand it down with the final stage. So we're going to be doing another stage here of clear coat. We're not going to be using epoxy resin because it actually ran out of the epoxy resin. So instead I'm going to be using some clear coat. So I just finished sanding. I didn't record it because I've done a lot of sanding at the minute. But I just used 400 grit sander for this, and it's looking a lot flatter now. So we should be able to now use some clear coat on this and then get it to a nice flat surface and be nice and smooth. And I didn't burn through any carbon, so that's good. So it should all look nice once it's fully clear coated. So while I wait for the clear coat to dry, I'm just going to go ahead and change out or replace the timing belt as well as the water pump. to finish with the timing, but putting the timing belt on because I'm missing an O-ring on the thermostat housing, so I can't actually do that right now. So I'll put everything back together now. I also cleaned all the plates up when I was putting it back together. So once that O-ring comes, we can get the timing belt on, but for now I'm just going to put it all back together and see how it all looks with the new carbon skin piece. It's the next day and the clear coat's dry, so now since it's dry now, I can actually, since all this is back together, I can just test fit it. Came out pretty nice. There is a few bits that could probably do with like a wet sand and then a buff again, but overall it's looking pretty good. A lot better than it was anyway. It's not perfect, some parts aren't fully stuck down to the piece, and so it's lifted off the actual plastic itself, but it's strong enough to not crack or anything. So I'm just going to go ahead, fit this up to the engine and see how it looks, and then that should be pretty much the carbon skinning done for this. So the last stage is pretty much just a clear coat, and then the next after that, if you want it even better, you can give it a whole wet sand with like 2000 grit paper. And it's looking pretty good, looking clean. I do want to clean up this piece because that's putting it off. Clean that up a little bit. It has to come off anyway again because I'm missing an O-ring for the head, so I'll just put it on here just to see how it looks. There's a little gap here, but it's not very big, and I think whenever I push this down or bolt this up, it will the gap will get smaller anyway. That's pretty much it for this video. Hope you liked the video, and if you enjoyed, leave a like, it will help out the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.